Game starring James Bond going back to the earliest consoles, but no game before or since Goldeneye has ever given the player such a strong feeling of actually being the man himself. The old saying about the appeal of James Bond was, men want to be him, women want to be with him. Bond is a true English hero. He's always smartly dressed, chivalrous, witty and suave, just like me really. The development of Goldeneye by British developers Rare meant that the game stayed true to the British spirit of the Bond movie franchise. After going through a rough patch in the late 80s and early 90s, it looked like the Bond movie franchise was grinding to a halt. Timothy Dalton had failed to set the world alight as a new Bond man, so Goldeneye really was the last chance before apathy killed off Bond where so many outlandish villains had failed. It was a huge success, a balls-out tongue-in-cheek homage to previous Bond movies starring the cream of British acting talent and a roguish but charismatic new Bond in the shape of Pierce Brosnan. It resurrected the dying franchise, and it can be argued that Goldeneye helped rescue the badly floundering Nintendo 64 as well. Certainly in the UK it proved that the more sophisticated and adult flavoured games could thrive on what was perceived to be an overpriced kids' toy. Of course it wasn't all plain sailing. The game hit the shelves long after the film had done so well, and as movie to game conversions have traditionally always been synonymous with half-assed cash-in products, there was some scepticism as to the game's merit. But when it finally came out, all doubts were blown away. Goldeneye is probably the finest game based on a film ever programmed, and certainly one of the greatest console first-person shooters ever made, full stop. Its genius is that it took from the film everything it needed to keep the feel of a Bond adventure and added all the stuff needed to make it a great FPS. Lesser designers would maybe have welded movie franchises on some code that they had lying around for a different game, but Rare actually went to the trouble of photographing the film sets to make certain recreations as accurate as possible. Rewatching the film after having played the game to excess, you'll find yourself spotting which bits of the bunker look just like the game version and getting all excited about it. No? Oh, well, maybe that's just me then. The attention to detail even stretches to having the actors' faces mapped onto their characters, with extra villains from other films available in the deathmatch mode. Although the facial detail is pretty crude by today's standards, it still adds emotion and depth to the game by actually being able to interact with characters while on missions. In fact, the whole mission-based structure is the key to Goldeneye's success. With each mission, you're giving an MI6 briefing with orders from M and gadgets from Q, and a little message from Miss Moneypenny as well. These are all beautifully written and very much in the spirit of the films. The various guns and gadgets available from level to level vary, as do your tactics. There is only one of you and there are many Spetsnaz troops out for your blood. There are no handy health pickups, so once your energy is worn down, it's mission failed. In fact, probably the most nerve-wracking mission of the lot is the second trip to the bunker where you shoot out every security camera and alarm. If you trip one of these, it's mission over as swarms of soldiers pour in and take you out. So you find yourself sweating with tension as you lean around that corner, hoping against hope a soldier won't be around the corner and you won't catch yourself on the camera before it sweeps itself away from you. Even many RPGs and survival horror games can't boast this level of involvement and heart-stopping action. Graphically, the game is still one of the most impressive titles ever to grace the Nintendo 64. Unlike its flawed but still impressive spiritual sequel Perfect Dark, it runs smoothly without the need for the Nintendo 64 expansion pack and allows fast and frantic action with only minor slowdown during multiple explosions. The superb design of the enemy characters incorporated hit zones on their bodies, so if you manage to hit an enemy in the head, they would drop and hit in one shot. Hit them in the arm or leg and they'll hop around still trying to shoot you whilst you try to finish them off. The level designs managed to stay true to the film as well as incorporating elements to make navigating them easier. Huge barren snowscapes, dark cramped caves, misty jungles and enemy bases are just some of the places you'll find yourself taking on the Russians in your bid to defeat the leader of Janus, the rogue agent Alec Trevelyan. Married to the wonderful smooth graphics and gameplay are such sublime controls that you really have no one else to blame if you find yourself screwing up a mission. The game has one of the most perfectly designed control systems ever. Unlike console FPS games, it does not suffer from a lack of keyboard and mouse control. The positioning of the Z trigger on the controller and analog stick makes it easy to move around and fire with one hand, whilst the other hand controls looking, weapon selection and interacting with scenery such as doors, buttons and so on. If you actually possess two controllers, you can either configure one to move and fire and the other one you can use to look around, so you even have greater control by doing it that way. The multitude of options give this game tremendous replayability. Each mission can be tackled on one of 3 difficulty settings, which are Agent, Secret Agent and 007. And if you manage to complete the level within a certain time limit, you can unlock a wealth of cheat options to make both single player and multiplayer more amusing. You can exchange bullets for paintballs, become invisible, grow big heads, and massively increase your arsenal to include magnums and other powerful weapons. There are extra characters to unlock in multiplayer. As you progress, you increase the size of the arenas to play around as well. Multiplayer is also pure genius. Up to 4 players can take part and the game handles the split screen action very well. You can choose what happens when you want to, winning conditions that are needed, and even handicap or boost players dependent on their experience. So whether you've got friends that are Goldeneye veterans or you've got new people playing with you, you'll be able to adjust this so that they can be accommodated accordingly. So is there anything wrong with Goldeneye? Perhaps the only criticism that can be made of the game is that on the top difficulty level, the enemy soldiers gain impressive superpowers and can take several shots to the head at point blank range, which can be frustrating, especially for those that are used to the one headshot equals death of the lower difficulty game modes, and indeed most FPS games that followed. Also, some of the final objectives in the game become a little vague, but that's only a less wonderful aspect to this game. It's still as amazingly fun, engrossing, playable today as it was back in 1997. It's still by far the best Bond game ever to grace a console and the best movie tie-in game to boot. In fact, its only fault is the impossible standard it set for all Bond and console FPS games that followed. Even today, next-gen console FPS games get compared unfavourably to Goldeneye. It just goes to show what an immense achievement the game is. If you own a Nintendo 64, this is one of the few games that makes a console truly worth hanging on to. It's not just a great game, but a great Bond sim as well. It's perfection in one small grey cart, if you want to look at it that way. Even your inability to use the magnetic watch to undo Natalia's zipper can't spoil your enjoyment of this, the best N64 game ever in many people's opinions. So what's your favourite Goldeneye memory? Was it playing the incredible single player campaign and trying to unlock the wealth of extras? Or like me, was it playing multiplayer with your friends, all camped around one TV set trying to sneak a peek in their quarter of the screen as to where they are on the map? Let me know in the comments below, and for more Goldeneye memories, check out my playlist with a complete game playthrough of the single player campaign. Until next time, thanks for watching.